Hello, I'm Ros Atkins. This is BBC News live from Washington. Israel's cabinet has approved the ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza. The US Supreme Court has upheld a law banning the Chinese social media platform TikTok. And Donald Trump has moved his inauguration ceremony indoors because of freezing temperatures forecast for Monday. Hello, I'm Ros Atkins. Welcome to BBC News. We begin with news that the Israeli cabinet has voted to approve a 6-week ceasefire in Gaza. This is the first phase of a deal which, if implemented in full, will end the 15-month war in Gaza. Their meeting lasted more than 6 hours. Ahead of it, some ministers had threatened to resign, arguing the agreement rewards Hamas. Well, the first hostages are now due to be released as early as Sunday. In return, Israel says it will release dozens of Palestinian prisoners. They include some detainees as young as 16. Hamas will return 33 Israeli hostages during this initial 6 weeks of the deal. Also, these pictures are from Egypt, where trucks are waiting to bring aid into Gaza. Under this deal, Israel will allow 600 trucks into Gaza every day. That's 12 times more than at the moment. In another development, the president of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, says it's prepared to assume full responsibility of Gaza. The Palestinian Authority partly controls the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Well, protests both for the ceasefire deal and against have been taking place in different parts of Israel. Since the draft deal was first announced on Wednesday, officials in Gaza say more than 100 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli strikes, half of them women and children. Our international editor, Jeremy Bowen, has more from Jerusalem.
This is the boy who lived. Asad Khalifa, 3 years old. He's being looked after by neighbors in Gaza City. And that's his cry for help, from the rubble the night before last. He was strong enough to wave. The men had been about to abandon their search. And he was strong enough to try to clear concrete dust from his mouth. The Israelis killed Assad's parents, his baby sister, aunt and uncle when they destroyed the building a few hours after the ceasefire was announced. The background buzz is from an Israeli drone. Miraculously, Assad only had cuts and bruises. He's been taken in by his mother's best friend.
This little boy lost his mother and father because a pilot flying a plane in the sky took a decision and took away all the care he had.
Their neighborhood, Rimal, used to be the richest part of Gaza City. 50 miles away in Jerusalem, the Israeli cabinet ratified the ceasefire agreement. Ultranationalists voted against. They want Prime Minister Netanyahu to resume the war. The faces of the 1,200 killed in the October attacks are everywhere in Israel. This was outside the Prime Minister's office, also a reminder that Israelis are deeply divided over the best way to get the hostages back. Netanyahu's critics say he's broken his promise to rescue the hostages by destroying Hamas completely. Instead, he's made a deal with Hamas.
Our message is very clear, that a ceasefire deal is a surrender to Hamas. We will only support a deal if all hostages are released. That would send the message to the enemy that we are the rulers.
Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition crisis is going to be of little importance to Donald Trump, who's always going to put the interests of his own presidency first. And he wants to re-enter the White House, being able to claim, with some justification, that he was able to deliver a ceasefire that Joe Biden could not. Now, longer term, the structure of the ceasefire could be a problem because it's over a period of weeks and months and it's in phases. And that gives plenty of time for events to happen that could be exploited by those who want the ceasefire to fail. Outside the Prime Minister's official residence, supporters of the hostages suspect Netanyahu could be one of them. They say he prolonged the agony of hostages and all Israelis by delaying a ceasefire for months.
We lost too many people in fighting. We lost too many hostages from Israeli bombs. We lost too many people from killing by the Hamas. The situation in Israel, the society become very, very bad.
Explain to me why the delay happened.
Shall I tell you the truth, what I think? I think that somebody in the government didn't want that all the situation will finish because of his personally position in his life.
And who was that person?
Bibi.
Netanyahu, the Prime Minister.
Yes.
On the posters, their lives before and after the 7th of October. Happy moments in the past and the gaps left by the missing and the dead. For the families, the wait is an agony. For Israelis and Palestinians, the clock is ticking towards the ceasefire far too slowly. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly promised to destroy Hamas. So, after 15 months of conflict, what state is the group in? Our diplomatic correspondent James Landale has this assessment.
When Hamas launched its brutal attack on Israel on October the 7th, it was a powerful force. It sent about 3,000 fighters across the border and launched about 5,000 rockets. In all, the armed group and political movement was estimated to have about 30,000 fighters hidden in hundreds of tunnels across Gaza. But after 15 months of war, Israel says it is a shadow of its former self.
Hamas has been decimated, their leadership has been eliminated, their rockets arsenal have been destroyed, their tunnel network has been compromised, their operational capabilities have been shattered. They are no longer the force they once were.
Certainly, many senior figures have been killed. Hamas's political leader, Ismail Haniyeh, was assassinated in Tehran in July. Its main commander in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, was killed in October. The numbers are hard to verify, but Israel claimed in September to have killed 17,000 Hamas fighters. For all that, the Americans believe the group could still come back.
Each time Israel completes its military operations and pulls back, Hamas militants regroup and reemerge because there's nothing else to fill the void. Indeed, we assess that Hamas has recruited almost as many new militants as it has lost.
Those new recruits may have fewer tunnels to hide in, they may get fewer weapons from a weakened Iran, and they may be younger and more inexperienced than the trained fighters they're replacing. But they can still fight.
They still have small groups in some different areas who could fight Israel for a very long time because they work like a militia now, not like before 7th of October as a semi-army in Gaza.
So Hamas is weakened, its ability to mount sustained military operations much reduced. But it hasn't been destroyed, something Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, once promised would happen. James Landale, BBC News.
Now, in other news, the US Supreme Court has backed a law banning the app TikTok. This could impact a lot of people because over 170 million TikTok users are in the US. Now, this legislation was passed in response to fears about Chinese control of TikTok through its parent company, ByteDance, and ByteDance was given an ultimatum: sell TikTok's US business or face a ban. Well, to this, TikTok appealed under the First Amendment right of free speech, but the Supreme Court has knocked this back unanimously, and so the ban is set to come into force on Sunday, the day before Donald Trump becomes president. Our correspondent, Nomia Iqbal, has more on how the Trump administration may approach this.
What can Donald Trump do to try and save TikTok? So what he can't do, first of all, is repeal the law set by Congress. I mean, this law is about as bipartisan as you can get in contemporary Washington. There are Trump loyalists in the Republican Party who want TikTok to be banned, and then there are members of the Democratic Party who agree with Donald Trump in saving TikTok. So it's not straightforward. It doesn't fall on party lines. An option that Donald Trump also has is to not enforce the law. He could say to his incoming Attorney General, Pam Bondi, don't penalise the companies like Apple and Oracle and Google who might still have TikTok on their platform. The problem with that is it's fairly questionable whether or not you can make a law effectively redundant that way. Also, given that Donald Trump is pretty mercurial, will the CEOs of these platforms want to take the risk and just take Donald Trump's word for it? The real option that Mr. Trump has is to get TikTok to sell the app to a US company. I mean, there are plenty of US companies that have expressed interest. TikTok has said that it won't do that. But if Trump can make that happen, then that is one option. And if he sees that there is a progress of a deal happening, he also has the ability to extend the deadline of the ban for 90 days.
Well, let's talk to Sarah Baus. Sarah's a content creator and TikTok strategist with over 800,000 followers. And Sarah, I know you travelled to Washington, D.C. to listen to Supreme Court hearings on this issue earlier this month. Tell me why you've become so engaged in it.
This is so important to me. This is my livelihood. It's the livelihood of so many of my friends. I have DMs, I have emails, I have people telling me all how TikTok has impacted their life, how this ban is going to take away their mainstream of income. People are scared. And I knew it was important for me to be there and make sure that our voices were heard.
And I'm sure some of those in support of the ban would be sympathetic to some of the points you're making, but they would counter that they have concerns about its connection with China. What do you say to those concerns?
Absolutely. I think that anybody who is against the ban doesn't disagree that data security is an issue. I think that is definitely an issue, and we all realize that. However, this is a conversation that is decades late. This is a conversation that should be had in terms of comprehensive law around all social media platforms, all platforms that are currently selling data, especially when TikTok has spent billions on its own data security. I think we all agree data security is important, but this is not the way to handle it.
So are you hoping that Donald Trump may find a way to mean this ban doesn't come into force, or are you starting to think about where to move your business to?
I'm absolutely hoping that we pull really anything out. Again, I keep thinking of the small businesses, 7 million American small businesses, and so many of them, including people that are close to me, 99% of their sales come from TikTok. 7 million businesses alone, that would be just washed out. So I'm hoping that we can get any positive news.
But would you consider moving to another app that might offer somewhere else that you can base your business?
I have been on other apps. I think many TikTok creators are on other apps, and we just haven't been able to replicate what we have been able to do on TikTok. But I know for me and my audience, I will find them wherever they are. I hope they'll come to find me. So I will show up wherever they need me to be.
And in terms of what solution there might be, what's your preferred option? Do you like the idea that TikTok in America is carved off and sold to someone? Is that something that would be attractive to you?
I would like us to come to a solution where the current experience for users is not changed. The algorithm is that's what makes it attractive. The algorithm is extremely helpful in finding key audiences. That's why it's different from other platforms. So any way that we can keep the platform in the US, make sure everybody feels safe, make sure our data is secure while not inhibiting that experience that makes TikTok such a special place would be great for me.
And one last thing, Sarah, because I've been struggling with this. If you managed to find out what could happen on Sunday night if this ban comes into force, is there likely to be a change to the experience of those who make content for TikTok and indeed lots of other people who simply go on it to watch content?
Oh, gosh, I wish I had that answer. And I've talked to many friends. I've talked to many connections at TikTok. I've talked to connections within the legislators, and nobody seems to know as of right now what this is going to look like.
There are a number of things we're not sure of at the moment. Thank you very much indeed, though, for giving us your perspective on this story. That's Sarah Baus, who's a content creator and TikTok strategist. Needless to say, you can find her on TikTok.
Thank you.
Now, for the first time in 40 years, the presidential inauguration here in Washington, D.C. will take place indoors. Donald Trump said the cold weather predicted for Monday would be dangerous for the crowd and that he didn't want to see people injured. So the ceremony will now be held inside the Rotunda, the large circular room in the centre of the US Capitol. The change means significantly fewer people will be able to attend the inauguration, but thousands will be able to watch the ceremony at a nearby arena. Now, one of Donald Trump's campaign promises is that on day one, he will aggressively crack down on immigration along the US-Mexico border. Our news correspondent, Helena Humphrey, is in Yuma in Arizona. She's been speaking to residents near the border, and this is her latest report.
Welcome to Lutz Casino. This is a bar, restaurant and pool house here in Arizona, a swing state, of course, which we know went for Donald Trump in the election. But here in Yuma County, where we are right now, overwhelmingly voters chose Donald Trump in this election. When you speak to people here about how they're feeling about inauguration, usually the word is excitement, or people saying that they hope, for example, that it's better than the past 4 years. Just a few people being a little bit more apprehensive. But this is a really interesting area because it is a Latino majority county here in Yuma County. But nevertheless, Donald Trump did make significant inroads with that voting population. And when you talk about immigration here, you'll find people saying that perhaps they are a little bit more concerned when they hear things about a mass deportation from day one, because they say that, yes, at certain points during the Biden presidency, they did feel that the number of people coming over the border, they say, was too high. But they say, nevertheless, many people coming over here legally, 30,000 people coming over from Mexico here every day to be part of that skilled labor force, particularly in an agricultural community like this, they say is invaluable for the local economy. And those economic concerns that we heard voiced in the election really coming to the forefront when we spoke to voters here once again. Here's what they told me.
I'm feeling very hopeful. I'm hopeful that things will pick up and that the economy will get better and that the country will come together as one instead of this too divided. I don't like it as divided as it is.
Really, the economy. It's just down in the dumps right now, you know, and it's going to take a lot to get us out of it, but you know, like I said, if we can just come together as a people, then we can do anything.
So those economic concerns coming through very strongly here. And when it came to immigration, and we spoke to officials here, they were telling us that in 2023 they were processing some 11,000 migrants coming through Yuma per month. Now they say, after executive actions by President Biden, it's 500 per month. And they've also expressed concerns that when they hear things such as mass deportations, they just don't know whether they have, they say, enough of the border force officials working here to actually be able to enact those plans.
Just a quick reminder, we'll have full live coverage of Donald Trump's inauguration here on BBC News with a special programme from Washington starting on Monday at 12 GMT, that's 7 a.m. US Eastern. Now, Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed that he'll end the war in Ukraine in a single day after taking office. His own envoy to Ukraine has now revised that to 100 days, and we still have no details on how that may be achieved. Moscow currently controls 18% of Ukraine and is continuing to take territory. You can see that in this map from the Institute for the Study of War. Our senior international correspondent, Orla Guerin, reports on the mood in Ukraine ahead of Trump's return to the White House.
Waging war on Ukraine's eastern front. A drone unit assembles improvised bombs by hand. Some parts 3D printed. We get a close-up view. They work by torchlight to avoid detection by the Russians just a few miles away. Then the drone is launched towards the enemy. It's called a vampire, bringing death by night. And here, the pilot, Commander Mihailo, from the 68th Jaeger Brigade. He drops an anti-tank mine on an underground Russian position at the edge of the city of Pokrovsk. We see it explode just wide of the target. Mikhailo is not expecting much from President Trump, even less from President Putin. Do you think there's any way to do a deal with Putin?
Maybe, maybe not, but he seems like a completely unstable person, and that's putting it very gently.
For now, he's focused on trying to hold back the Russian advance. But after 3 years of war, some Ukrainian soldiers have put down their weapons, like Serhiy Nezdylov, who's now on trial. As many as 100,000 Ukrainian soldiers are accused of leaving the battle. What message do you want to send about the war?
We must continue to fight. We have no other choice. But soldiers are not slaves. Everyone who has spent 3 years or more on the front line deserves the right to rest.
It's a real sign of the times here now. You don't see men queuing down the road, waiting to enlist, as we saw in the early days of the war. You do see Ukrainians in the dock accused of desertion. And you also see funerals of those who died for Ukraine and the agony of those left behind. Anastasia Fedchenko is pregnant with her first baby, a girl. Her husband, Andriy Kuzmenko, was killed in action in the east. He fought so Ukraine would survive for their unborn child, Anastasia says. She doesn't believe in peace deals. This war will last as long as Russia does, she says. I truly fear our children will inherit it from us and will have to fight. The suffering and the sacrifice continue here. What's missing is the talk of victory. Orla Guerin, BBC News, Eastern Ukraine.
Now, 3 lawyers who defended the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny have been sentenced to up to 5.5 years in prison. They were convicted of being part of what was termed an extremist organisation at the end of a trial which took place behind closed doors. Navalny was Putin's highest profile critic within Russian politics. He died suddenly in an Arctic prison last February. Our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg, reports.
Walk into a courtroom and you wouldn't expect to see this. In the dock, 3 defence lawyers, Alexei Liptsa, Vadim Kobzev and Igor Sergunin. They had defended the late opposition leader, Alexei Navalny. Now they were on trial on extremism charges. Guilty, said the judge. The punishment, prison terms of up to 5.5 years for passing on messages from Mr. Navalny when he was in jail. Applause from their supporters who dismissed this trial as politically motivated. The lawyers reply, "Thank you for being here." From their defence team, Andrei Orlov tells me it's an unprecedented outcome that will have consequences for legal defence in Russia. It's nearly 1 year since Alexei Navalny died in a remote penal colony. He was the Kremlin's fiercest critic. His family, his comrades say he was murdered. The Russian authorities deny any involvement in his death, but continue to pressure his associates. Towards the end of this trial, one of the lawyers convicted today, Vadim Kobzev, addressed the judge and summed up in one sentence what has been happening here. "We are on trial," he said, "for passing on the thoughts of Alexei Navalny." But it's not just Mr. Navalny's lawyers
who are being put in the dock.
These journalists are on trial too. They've been accused of working with Mr. Navalny's outlawed anti-corruption foundation. And yet, in the town of Petushki, where the lawyers were in court, the only trials people seem interested in are their own trials and tribulations. I'm more concerned that they've dug up the road and there's no running water, she says, and that they still haven't cleared all the snow. The fact that just down the road, 3 lawyers have been convicted and sent to prison barely registers. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, in the town of Petushki.
Now to an astonishing discovery in Pompeii, because the latest excavations there have revealed new treasures. Archaeologists have discovered a beautifully preserved private bathhouse, complete with some exquisite artwork and a huge plunge pool, no less. Pompeii was a Roman city that was destroyed when Mount Vesuvius erupted nearly 2,000 years ago, and large parts of it still remain hidden beneath the volcanic rock and ash that rained down. It's an extraordinary find. A little bit earlier, I was reading about it on the BBC News website. You can get more details too on this discovery through bbc.com/news. Of course, you'll find extensive coverage of many of the other stories that we've talked about in this half an hour too. That is it for this half an hour on BBC News. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.